Hi, I'm Aga, and I would like to share with you what I wrote in my birth plan. So I've given birth 12 weeks ago, and my birth ended up in a C-section. So I know that having a perfect birth plan doesn't mean that this is how your birth is going to work. I think writing a birth plan is very important because you're gonna educate yourself. And I think the knowledge that you gain, you can use to actually talk to medical professionals, to midwives, and just have a peace of mind. So I have the birth plan here with me, and I basically wrote like different chapters in my birth plan. And that actually follows like how the birth is going, so that, like if someone is looking at it, they can always refer to it like at what stage are we right now. So I started with the support persons and atmosphere. So I chose that I want to give birth with my husband. I didn't choose doula or I didn't buy a midwife. So it was just my husband. I wanted only essential staff, so no students. It was my first birth, so I wanted only people that I know, as little people in the room as possible. I wanted to have one midwife throughout the entire labor, but obviously if you are giving birth in a hospital, that's not going to happen. There will be like a morning shift, a night shift throughout my birth. And I will just say that my birth took around 3 days. I've seen like around 6 midwives that actually help with birth, but there are also lots of different midwives that help you if you have inductions. I want a quiet, calm atmosphere, dimmed lighting, red light and music. Then the next chapter is communication. Please address me by my first name and use simple, clear language. Please explain any interventions, including pros and cons, together with available alternatives. This is a big one because I really was big on having full knowledge in terms of what is being done on me. I reserve the right to refuse any proposed procedures. I need time to discuss decisions privately with my partner. That didn't happen because I was basically discussing things with the doctors and midwives because they have the knowledge, right? Preparation for labor. I do not want routine preparatory procedures, shaving, enema, unless I request them myself. So I've learned that actually they don't do that in hospitals anymore. I didn't want IV, so I wrote that. And I want to give birth in my own clothing. In Poland, they don't give you clothing, like probably in the US. Labor and delivery. I want to use bathtub if giving birth in water is possible. Please keep me informed about the progress of labor. I want a natural course of labor, minimal interventions, and my full consent for all the procedures. Please limit vaginal examinations. They should only be performed by one person and only with my consent and when medically necessary. That was a big one because from my experience, they are very painful, those vaginal examinations, but they are also necessary to check if you're progressing and to help doctors make a decision. So I was fully aware that they might happen, but I was also kind of ready like not to have them at all, but didn't happen. Before each examination, please explain why it is being done and how many further examinations are anticipated during the course of my labor, and perform it in a position that is comfortable for me. They're only being done when you're laying. I haven't encountered during my birth that they would do examination in a different position. I kind of wish, because if you have contractions and you're laying down, it's really painful. I do not consent to cervical massage during dilation checks, membrane sweeping. I do not consent to vaginal examinations after my waters have broken due to the risk of infection. If the amniotic fluid is clear and there are no signs of infection, I want to wait up to 24 hours before induction. I prefer intermittent CTG monitoring or fetal heart rate auscultation with a Doppler by a midwife. And midwife pointed out that Doppler is actually a wrong term. It's a different technology. Continuous CTG only if medically indicated. If possible, turn off the loud sound of the baby's heartbeat. And they did it because it's actually kind of annoying if it's like really loud all the time. I want to be free to move, change positions, and eat light meals. I want to avoid vacuum extraction and forceps without my consent. I'm aware that vacuum extraction is used more often and forceps more rarely. It's kind of like I'm educating the doctors myself. Pain management. Please do not offer pharmacological pain relief unless I ask for it. I want to use non-pharmacological methods: massage, acupressure, water tents, compresses, aromatherapy, rebozo, birthing ball. I do not consent to dollar gun or medications that affect consciousness. They told me that they don't use these type of medications. If I decide to have an epidural, please preserve my ability to move. Next chapter, perineal incision protection. I prefer perineal protection. I consent to episiotomy only in situations when there is a risk to baby's health or life. Induction and augmentation of labor. I want to avoid induction if both my condition and the baby's conditions are normal. I end up having all kinds of inductions. I prefer natural methods: movement, nipple stimulation, aromatherapy. Movement and nipple stimulation, this is what I tried before I actually end up in the hospital. If induction is necessary, my preferred order is cervical check and massage, Foley balloon, prostaglandins, artificial rupture of membranes, oxytocin. And I even added like amount of hours that it's advised to wait before seeing if something is working. I was like really obsessing about, doing natural. So I provide as much guidance to doctors as possible. If synthetic oxytocin is administered, please start with the lowest dose and increase it gradually while monitoring the baby's heart rate and strength of contractions. Any increase or additional dose should be given only after prior consultation with me. If oxytocin is administered and I'm having strong regular contractions, I would like the next dose to be reduced rather than increased to support natural labor and avoid stimulation. Stop altogether if cramps are good. I wrote it in pen, like the last sentence, because the midwives told me in Netherlands about it. Like, I really was big on writing down like what should happen with the inductions. I really wanted to be in control of the process because I think the inductions rate are pretty high. So very likely you might gonna end up having inductions. So like be prepared in terms of what you're fine with, what you're not fine with. I do not consent to the Christeler maneuver. I consent to artificial rupture of membranes only once contractions are strong and there are medical indications. First stage of labor. If monitoring or an IV drip is required, please allow freedom of movement. I want to give birth in positions guided by my body. I want to push spontaneously following my instincts. Second stage of labor. I would like to touch the baby's head as it is crowning. Third stage of labor. I prefer natural delivery of the placenta. If the placenta does not deliver spontaneously, I would like to use a birth chair to assist its delivery. Oxytocin only in case of increased bleeding or after 45 minutes. Start with a single intramuscular dose without routine IV infusion. If umbilical cord blood needs to be collected for banking, please ensure it is done in a way that does not deprive the baby of additional placental blood and preserves delayed cord clamping. After birth, the support person will cut the umbilical cord clamping only after the umbilical pulse has stopped and becomes white, skin-to-skin contact for at least 2 hours without interruption, breastfeeding initiated as soon as possible after birth, baby wrapped in my clothing, baby stays with me at all times, all procedures are performed in my presence in the room. I do not consent to the CRED maneuver. I prefer the baby not to be bathed in a hospital. I allow only gentle wiping of the baby's face with water only. No soap or alcohol-based wipes, hands and diaper area to remove blood vernix if necessary. I request that the vernix is left on the skin as much as possible. Airway suctioning only if there is actual obstruction. I want to verify the vitamin K before administration. No photographs during weighing. Initial assessment done skin to skin, full examination later. Cesarean section if necessary. I want to avoid a C-section if possible. Unfortunately, I had a C-section. The support person should be present during the procedure. Skin to skin contact as soon as possible during the procedure. Skin to skin contact as soon as possible, or if not, kangaroo care with my partner. I would like to sip water and eat porridge once peristalsis returns. cord clamping only after the umbilical pulse has stopped and becomes white. The baby stays with us in the recovery room. Breastfeeding should begin as soon as possible. If possible, follow a microbiome friendly protocol. Please maintain a calm and dim atmosphere. That did not have, because it's an operation, they need to have lights full on. Postnatal ward. No formula feeding without my consent. I would like to access to a lactation consultant and psychologist if needed. Vaccinations. I do not consent to my baby being vaccinated. Newborn tests. I want to perform a hearing test and basic, as well as diluted panel of newborn screening tests on the 3rd day of life. And that's it. I will attach this PDF down below in the description so you can copy and make your own version with this birth plan. I really hope it is useful to you. It's definitely targeted towards being natural, as little interventions as possible, but if there are interventions, this is how I would like them to happen. And it's also about minimal interventions to the baby as well. So, and it's not extremely, I would say, natural, because it is still happening in a hospital. So it's made for the hospital setting. It's not for a home birth. I didn't create a home birth plan because I didn't want to give birth at home. So I hope it is useful to you. And let me know in your comments if your birth went according to your birth plan. I'm very curious to hear your stories. Bye!